Good morning from the 724 here in Washington, Pennsylvania. It's time for your daily motivation. I want to share with you Mark 2:27. And he said unto them, the Sabbath was made for man, and not man for the Sabbath. The day of the Sabbath rest is God's rhythm to bless us, not God's requirement to burden us. Jesus reminds us that man was not made for the Sabbath, to obey the rules and regulations to keep this day from being a sin. The Sabbath was made as a gift from God to men, to encourage us to have a day of rest, worship, and fellowship. Regular rest is one of the rhythms that leads to having an abundant life. The Pharisees intended to find fault with Jesus, his followers, and his teachings. After plucking the ears of corn in a field, Jesus was accused of allowing his disciples to sin by harvesting on the Sabbath. Jesus responds with the example of David and his men in the temple with Abiathar, the high priest, when they ate the shewbread. We have a lot of man-made rules today about Sunday, some helpful, some not so helpful, and maybe even a little unrealistic. It's amazing how some traditions can take the joy out of living in the Spirit. So take your own temperature. But meanwhile, back to our verse. The first thing to remember is that the Sabbath was intended to help people, not burden them. In contrast with the grueling daily work that they had as slaves in Egypt, the Israelites were commanded to take a full day of rest each week under the Mosaic law. Pharisaical law had morphed the Sabbath into a burden, adding restrictions beyond what God's law said. The act of plucking a head of grain and corn and munching on it as one walked along a field shouldn't be considered harvesting, as the Pharisees tried to make it. The disciples had not broken God's law. They'd only violated the Pharisees' strict interpretation of the law. Jesus reminded the Pharisees of the original intent of the Sabbath rest. And then secondly, Jesus is Lord even over the Sabbath. Now what does that mean? Another way to express the idea is to say that Jesus is in charge of the Sabbath. He is God in human form. He created the Sabbath day. And as the one who wrote the law, Jesus certainly has oversight over how the law is to be enforced. The Pharisees had lifted their own rules to the level of God's, placing burdens on people, and they ended up rebuking the lawgiver himself. You and I should be careful. Make sure that we are motivated by love and a commitment to worship and responsible to celebrate and to observe the Sabbath rest in our lives. Make sure that you follow these principles so that God will bless you and prosper and grow you in this new year. I want to encourage you today. Set aside time. Make sure you honor, worship the Lord. Set aside time to worship and to fellowship with other believers. And you will observe the Sabbath rest that God has in store for you. If you enjoy these motivational moments, please make sure you like, share, comment. I prayerfully look over all of the comments and we'll respond because we love you. Don't forget, God loves you even more. I want you to have a great day. Be blessed. Peace.